Greetings, citizens! You're now trapped in the NerdCage with your hosts Mark and Jay. We hope you have a smashing good time.
Hello and welcome. That's right, you're trapped in NerdCage Live. This ain't just a reaction show, but a debate show and a live discussion on everything that makes people like you and I tick. So thank you for joining us tonight. I am your co-host, Jay St. G, coming to you live from Syracuse, New York, and always with me, my man, the Fiend from Louisville, Mark Withers. What's shaking, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? Super excited to be here as usual. And here we are with another look back. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Expendables, which is like a who's who of 80s and 90s action heroes. I know that when I first watched this, I was like, I had to pinch myself. I was like, I can't believe that all of these superstars are in one movie. And, it just sort of came out of nowhere. So how did you feel about it when you first heard that they were making this movie?
Well, first and foremost, I ate my steak before I watched the movie. This is a man's movie for sure. But I'll never forget. I remember where I was when I was first told about this movie. It was about a year before the movie came out. A co-worker, I was working at Target at the time. I worked at Target for 3 years during college. And I remember this dude was telling me, like, there's this movie coming out called The Expendables. I did not believe him. He's like, it's Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, and Jet Li, and he's like naming all these superstars. I did not believe it. I'm like, no way are all these guys that we grew up watching gonna set their egos aside and be in a movie? I'm like, no way. I didn't believe it. Like, this sounds like some troll on the internet just made up and just put it out there. Like, hey, I heard this movie coming out called The Expendables and Stallone, blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't believe it when I first heard about it. And then when the trailer came out and then all this confirmation came out, oh my God, I was lit. Keep in mind, everybody, this is before the Avengers. Before the Avengers, we were talking about getting everybody together. I mean, Toho, okay, well, let's take it back. The Universal Monsters kind of did it first, but Toho did it first with Destroy All Monsters, having all the Godzilla monsters and Rodan and Mothra, everybody on screen together for the first time, with all of them. And then now, like I said, decades later, we have all the action stars that we grew up with. All that we grew up with are all in the same movie together. Again, this was before the Avengers, so it's like, wow, this felt like this was like the true prelude to Avengers, when we got all these superstars on screen together. And I just couldn't believe it. And let me just tell you right now, seeing this movie in the theaters, possibly the very best experience I've ever had in a movie theater. It was a whole lot of testosterone in the movie theater. Everybody was lit. Everybody was cheering. Everyone was laughing and screaming during the scene, like the crazy scenes. Like, I can't remember the last time I had that much fun. Other than like the first Avengers movie, I can't remember the last time I had that much fun in a movie theater. Like, it was just lit. It was a party. It was like a celebration. And this movie I still get the same feeling of this movie to this day.
Right on. So funny story, man. Like, I worked in an office back in like 2005, 2006. And there were a bunch of like other people that were like my age and like a little bit younger who had kind of grown up with like 80s and 90s action stars. And somebody made a joke one day and said, wouldn't it be like the greatest thing ever if we could get Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and we just started like rifling off like all of these like action star names. Like, wouldn't it be great to get them all in the same movie? And over the course of like 6 months, it became like this running joke. Like, every day at lunch, we would start to add a name. Like, oh, what if we put Wesley Snipes in there? Oh, what if we put, you know what I mean? Like, over time. And then, fast forward, like, 4 or 5 years later, and it's a real thing. You know what I mean?
And you were still working in that same office?
Yeah, well, no. By that time, I had moved on to another office, but I kept in touch with some of my friends from there, and that was like the new running joke was like, man, somebody owes us a check. Like we came up with the idea, you know. And you know, one of the funnier things about that is that like we had cast like Wesley Snipes in a role, and come to find out that Terry Crews's character was originally meant for Wesley Snipes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, yeah, he was actually in talks with Stallone to play that role, but because he was going through like his tax issues at the time, he wasn't allowed to. Yeah, everybody remembers that. So like he wasn't allowed to leave the States. There were some parts of the movie that were going to be filmed outside of the States, so he wasn't going to be able to do it. So then they rewrote the role for Forrest Whitaker, and Forrest Whitaker couldn't do it because there was a scheduling conflict. He was working on something else.
Yeah, but man, Forrest Whitaker, even at that time, he's out of shape. He wouldn't have been right for it anyway.
Well, this would have been off the heels of like Ghost Dog. So like, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Like he kind of gets busy in that. So like, I think it could have worked, but at any rate, he couldn't do it. So then they offered it to 50 Cent. Something happened where 50 Cent couldn't do it, and then ultimately it went to Terry Crews.
Oh, so. Terry Crews was one of the best parts of that movie.
I agree.
I really feel that way. He was,
yeah.
I was going to jump right to it. So this scene, the one that the probably the most famous scene, maybe the best and most famous scene of the movie, was Terry Crews coming in with that giant gun, clearing out everything, and then drops the great one-liner. Remember this shit on Christmas. Oh my god! But man, everybody in the theater. Let me tell you something. Watching this movie on my TV, and it with my no, listen, I don't have the most superior sound equipment, but doesn't even compare to how it was in the movie theater. In the movie theater, that scene was much more louder. You felt it in your stomach, like, and like, oh my goodness, seeing that in the theater, and everyone cheered. We couldn't believe what we were watching. Seeing this big muscular man with that gun just clearing everything out, and then of course he takes out all the helicopters and the towers and like, my god, dude, that was my favorite scene of the movie, hands down. Terry Crews may not have been the most pivotal like character, but he had the best scene hands down, and no other actor could have pulled that off. Only Terry Crews. It was just on par. It was perfect. It was perfect delivery. Oh, I love it. I love everything about that scene. Terry Crews is the man.
Yeah, the great thing about like casting Terry Crews is that like he's like a big, like muscular, like athletic dude, but at the same time he has this like
cartoon character.
Yeah, he has this great comedic timing. And so like he provides this like awesome comic relief, but then there are scenes where he can really get busy and he can really like, you know, like pull off the action scenes, fight scenes, like scenes with guns and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that they really, you know, failed upwards as far as like getting him, you know, like choosing him after all of the other choices kind of fell through. It was like a very lucky break for them.
Yeah, and I feel like Terry Crews has been underutilized. I mean, I know he's great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I loved him in White Chicks and like, and but I just feel like that we need to see him in more roles similar to Expendables, where he's like the action hero, and we need to see more of that. I mean, because he's got that. I mean, he's got that it factor. And for me, I remember seeing him in the Old Spice commercials. That was like the Old Spice commercials were coming out around
the Old Spice man,
like the same time as the Expendables. So that's what made it extra exciting. Like, oh my god, we're gonna see this guy in the Expendables as well. Like, oh my god, like sign me up. So yeah, like, I mean, like I said, look at that. It was such a loaded cast, and like, and for me, like other scenes that really stand out to me. And I know we just kind of like talked about it off air, but like I love the fight scene between Dolph Lundgren and Jet Li. Because that was a matchup. So that was a matchup I never ever dreamed of seeing. Because, like, here's the thing: people got to know that Dolph Lundgren is a fantastic martial artist. He was before Rocky IV. He was a karate black belt champion in Germany. Yeah. Like he was like top of the line, and we never really saw. I mean, obviously in Rocky IV he boxed. He didn't really show off his martial arts as much. We saw a little bit of his martial arts in like as bad as it was, The Punisher and a few other movies. So I feel like this finally in Expendables, we really got to see him go hand to hand with another big name, which was Jet Li. I love that fight scene. It was legendary. I know you feel differently, but for me, that was legendary.
I mean, as a Jet Li super fan, I was very pissed off, like, at that scene. Even, like, you know, watching it initially, but then, like, rewatching it, like, a few days later, like, it didn't change my mind. I mean, I've been a fan of Jet Li since, like, Tai Chi Master. You know what I mean? Like, he's just, to me, like, he's just one of the greatest martial arts film stars out there. Like, I put him up there with Jackie Chan, you know? Like, he's incredible. And to have that fight, like, well, both fight scenes, to have him lose like so, like, embarrassingly, like, in my, you know, it'd be one thing if, like, they were more evenly matched, I guess, in those scenes, like, where, you know, like Jet Li actually gets some really good shots in, but really, like, the way that it's set up, like, Dolph just, like, mops the floor with him, and I just didn't appreciate him, you know.
I mean, oh god, but there's so many other great fight scenes. Like, now here's another thing too. Let's just jump ahead. Stallone versus Stone Cold. Okay. Now, I thought Stone Cold was a perfect henchman.
He was killer. I loved him in that.
Yes, I'm not gonna lie to you. I hated Eric Roberts. I still do, because for those who don't know, Eric Roberts is Julia Roberts' older brother. Yeah. He's terrible and everything.
Yeah.
This is where the Expendables 2 was better than Expendables 1. Jean-Claude Van Damme was a great villain.
Right.
And to me, Eric Roberts, he's not an action star. He's not a martial artist. Like, he's not, like, he was just a rich guy. Like, he didn't. I just think, like, it could have been a better, like, we didn't get, like, it wasn't a great final showdown because it's Eric freaking Roberts. But Stone Cold as the henchman. Now, here's what Stallone.
That was dope.
Direct quote from Stallone. He said this. He said that if I'm not injured filming a movie, this movie's gonna be bad. Right. Stallone has been vocal saying, if I get hurt, if I get injured, I know this is gonna be a good movie. Stallone was injured on set. Right. Stone Cold put Stallone in a neck brace. Like,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. That fight scene where Stone Cold threw him, grabbed him by like, you know, he slammed him down the ground. Stallone got hurt, seriously hurt, and they had a whole production. Stallone went to the emergency room and had to wear a neck brace for God knows how long, because due to Stone Cold laying him out.
Yeah.
So,
and that was a great scene too.
Yeah. So props to Stallone. And the funny thing is Stallone is literally half the size of Stone Cold, literally. Right. And that was a fun dynamic there. And then immediately after, of course, the scene I just talked about with Terry Crews, Stone Cold runs away, and then we get Randy Couture versus Stone Cold. So, like, man, these matchups were freaking awesome on screen.
They were. And going back to, like, what you were saying about Eric Roberts, like, I just read a funny story where Stallone, like, Eric Roberts' role was actually written for Jean-Claude Van Damme. And they, like, originally wanted him. So, like, Stallone, like, approached him. And at the time, Van Damme, I don't know if he was, like, just not in a good place, but he didn't want the role and, like, told Stallone that, oh, well, you should be focusing on helping kids in South Central or something crazy like that. But after watching the first Expendables, after watching this film, like, he immediately expressed regret for not taking that role, which is why we see him as the villain in the second one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a little game crawling back.
Yeah. But, you know, think about how much better the movie would have been if it actually had been him in that role as opposed to Eric Roberts. No shade on Eric Roberts, because I like him in, like, Best of the Best. And,
I was saying, but he's done so many bad movies, though. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, like, I don't know, like, I hate to say this about him, because he used to be, like, a really great actor, like, in the 80s, but he's kind of devolved into these sort of hammy, kind of, like, over-the-top roles. Like, if you really want to see him, like, a good movie, like, I would recommend The Pope of Greenwich Village. It came out, like, the early 80s. It's, like, him and Mickey Rourke, and it's, like, a really good movie. It's an
I'm glad you brought up Mickey Rourke. Perfect timing, because I was just gonna get to Mickey Rourke. One of the best parts of this movie, and it's a damn shame they never brought him back. Mickey Rourke, listen, fresh off The Wrestler, which he should have won the Oscar for.
I agree.
It bugs me to this day. It kills me every time I think about that he lost to Sean Penn. It bothers me to this day, because that was his defining moment, that he could that he was never gonna, we all knew he was not going to get nominated again. Like, this was his moment. He didn't get it. And then he did Iron Man 2 immediately after that. And the funny thing is, you can kind of see, like, in the wrestler, Mickey Rourke was ripped and had the six pack, and then in the Expendables, he had the dad bod. But
Yeah.
For reference, anyone out there, you don't fuck with Mickey Rourke because
For real,
Mickey Rourke is a licensed. I'm not making this. He's a licensed boxer.
And
was
he's
a
good.
professional, and he was good.
Yes.
So you don't think you can pick a fight with him because he will knock you out. What? Sorry, just as I said that, my Godzilla just came apart. So, anywho, back to Mickey Rourke. What a performance. I know it was brief, but it was moving. The part where Mickey Rourke was talking about how he watched that woman kill herself and he could have saved her. What a powerful scene.
That was a great scene.
Powerful scene. And again, we got to see the acting chops, kind of like a reminder, hey, this is the guy that should have won the Oscar.
Right.
Like, we got a great reminder of how much of a moving performance he can give. And that was another great standout of this movie was Mickey Rourke's his one monologue there talking to Stallone why he couldn't sleep. He was going to finish the art and then smash the guitar and all that. Oh my God, it was great. And it's just a damn shame we didn't see Mickey Rourke come back, and it's a damn shame we didn't really get to see him in action. But I'm just so glad we got to see him, put on a great performance, although brief, a stellar performance.
Right. And my take on it is that, like this movie has so much like meat and potatoes in it, right? Like it's all action all the time, except for like a handful of scenes, like a very small handful of scenes. But those scenes are powerful, like Mickey Rourke, telling that story. I would have loved to see like more of him, like whether in that capacity or doing some action or a little bit of both. You know what I mean? In the same movie, if not in subsequent movies. I just really like that character a lot.
Yeah,
he was like,
a great character.
Yeah, and I just thought like just making him sort of what was he, like a tattoo artist or something?
Yeah, he was a tattoo artist, but he was the one that was giving them the jobs. He got the phone call from
right. Just
and
sort of like
his tattoo shop was like their gathering, their hideout.
Right. So like and I like the idea of having that as the setup, but I would have loved to see him like step in to like one of the jobs, or like because supposedly they go back, they mentioned that like, hey, war together. We were on that one island, that would have been cool. So definitely. Now, one thing I'm going to mention too is because it's something you told me that you didn't really like. Jason Statham's character, like, listen, I know you said that. We said off air that what his backstory with the breakup with his girlfriend, and she was seeing that other guy there, it really wasn't really relevant to the main plot. I get that, but the thing is, I feel like it was necessary because we needed to see. We didn't not just want to see the action stars, we wanted to see the human character as well. And I just felt like it was nice seeing his human character. We saw a peek of Mickey Rourke's human character. Like, I actually like the fact that, although these guys are action stars, they humanized them. And I feel like that was great that we got some of these backstories and what was going on in their lives, outside their dangerous missions. And same with Dolph Lundgren, that he had a drug addiction. So that's why I said I like how they humanize these characters. And I can agree with the sentiment. I just don't think it was very well executed. And I think that those scenes in particular, like with Jason Statham and his girlfriend and stuff like that, they really didn't add a whole lot of importance to, like, they didn't add a whole lot of relevancy to the main narrative, and they didn't move the narrative forward. It was just like this little aside that like just only makes the film longer than it needs to be. It's not really helping you, like, it's not really giving you a ton of insight into the character. Like, what I mean? I know I can get what you're saying as far as like, okay, they're trying to humanize these guys, but I just think it could have been done in a much better, much more succinct way. Yeah. And I think that they could have made those types of scenes more effective, to where you actually see the emotion, because all that's really doing the way those scenes are laid out all they're really doing is showing you what a badass he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not really showing you how he feels. Like, it's just like, oh, well, this guy messed with you, and I'm going to go and show up on a basketball court and beat up him and all of his friends. You know what I mean?
But the thing is, there was more to it than that, you know, he was in love with a woman, and she, you know, he didn't really fill her in on what he does for a living, why he always disappeared for long periods of time. So I'm just saying that there was some of that stuff was mentioned in there. Now, okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. One thing I love about this movie as well is the opening. Now, I'm going to take everybody back to around the time when this movie came out. The Somalian pirate thing was big. It was like world news at the time of these Somalian pirates taking American hostages and hostages from other countries, and how that was a dangerous area at the time because of these Somalian pirates. I love the fact that, talk about great timing. So I don't know if this was like a last minute decision or not, but the fact that this movie opened with them on a mission to, you know, to fight these pirates.
Right.
Man, we couldn't ask for better way to open the movie at the time, what the world and the country was going through.
And I agree with that. You know, like, we talked off camera about some of the things that I don't think hold up. I just kind of think that, you know, I love the action in that. I just think that, like, the way that they set up the Dolph Lundgren kind of like breaking off, like having him break off from the rest of the team, and the way that they did that, it didn't seem realistic to me. Like not that any of it's supposed to be realistic.
Yeah.
Have smell to, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't understand why they would be upset about what he was doing at that moment. Like, just why would you be like? I would just be like, all right, I guess that's cool, you know, like if that's your thing. But
there was a deleted scene. Okay, so the part where he did the warning shot. By the way, the theater went nuts.
Yeah.
But the warning shot scene, before he did the warning shot, Dolph Lundgren had a monologue. He got into an argument with the pirates, and then he said a joke, some kind of like a derogatory joke towards them. I can't remember it. It might be in the Blu-ray somewhere, but there was a deleted scene where he got in an argument with the pirates and said a joke to them, and then he did the warning shot. So,
but what I'm referring to,
there was some stuff that were cut off during that scene.
Right, and they probably would have made that make a little bit more sense. And you know how I am. I'm like, man, why did they cut this important stuff out? And that probably would have made it better. But like the part that I'm talking about is like when they're like, well, what are you doing? I'm hanging a pirate. Like, why would they want to stop him? Like, just do it. Like, these guys were gonna, kill these innocent people. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that they would have.
But Stallone, Barney, his character was Barney. Well, it wasn't his real name, but he's mentioned that, hey, we don't kill like that. We're not savages like these people are. Like, we just do the job. We're not gonna, we're not gonna lower ourselves to their level. Is basically what Stallone was upset about. And again, it makes you wonder, like, that was the reason why they cut him off from the group. But they also, another thing too, is his drug addiction. Like, he was butting heads with Jet Li. He had the drug addiction, which I think that was great because he got to add some depth to the character there. That he's fucked up from all those missions that he got hooked on heroin to get him away from that. PTSD pretty much. Right. Like, he had to get away from it, and that's why he had that drug addiction. Again, so that's what I'm saying. There's some, I liked how this movie was, how it worked.
Yeah, but that's what I mean by like the execution. Like, I like that he had that backstory, but they really didn't show him like really struggling with that addiction. And his reason for getting the boot, it may have been like, okay, this is one of the reasons, but this last straw is that he's hanging a pirate. And like what they explained in the film is that Stallone had this like one rule, which was that the people that you kill on the job have to deserve it, right? Yeah. Well, these guys deserved it. So why would he stop Dolph Lundgren from doing what he's trained to do, what he's being paid to do? Like, it just didn't, that particular scene, like, I just had a problem with it. Like, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Yeah. That's all. But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, I got my criticisms too. I'm just going to point out the one criticism, and I don't think it was really Stallone's fault, but it could have been timing, it could have been budget. the scene where when they first escape from the island, the car chase. The camera work was a little off-putting. I mean, some people zero in on that, but I get it. It didn't ruin the movie for me. But I will say one of my criticisms is that them escaping from the island could have been executed better. The chase scene was just a little weird how the pacing and the camera work was a little off. But really, that was my only problem with the movie. I mean, other than that, to me, the movie still holds up. The action and the gore and the dialogue makes me laugh because it's what you would expect from them. So to me, the movie still holds up. And okay, so we're getting close to wrapping this up. So I'm gonna add my one last thing in here. Maybe the funniest scene, maybe the scene, probably the most important scene, and it was basically history. We get a scene with Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Bruce Willis talking in the church, and they break the fourth wall a little bit, and it's great. Man, that scene was great. I wish we got a little bit more of that, but at the time, remember, Schwarzenegger was still, governor at the time.
Right.
He was still finished, so it was a miracle they got him to appear in it. And Bruce Willis, as we all know, demands money. So the fact that they got the three of them, even though it wasn't an action scene, but to see the three of them together on screen for the first time was epic.
That was pretty cool. And originally, I think Schwarzenegger was supposed to play Mr. Church, and they were going to get Kurt Russell, I think, to play Schwarzenegger's role.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, and that kind of fell apart for whatever reason, and so they kind of got Bruce Willis in, and then they switched Schwarzenegger's role. But to me, that still worked well. You know what I mean? It was nice to see Arnold and Sly trade these barbs.
Yeah. And he wants to be president. Yeah. I mean, all that was great. I love this movie. Look, listen, this movie still holds up. It may not be the best action movie ever. It's not. I'll still take the Rambo movies and the Rocky movies and the Terminators over this movie. But I still, before what came out in the past decade, what the world needed is because I feel like at the time, action movies, we were getting to the comic book era, and action movies didn't have that testosterone. Action heroes of the modern era were skinny and didn't. This movie brought back the action, the true 80s and 90s action, the muscular men and the one-liners. This movie revived that, and it showed that there was still an audience there, and I'm forever grateful to it. It was to me, this movie was the revival of 80s and 90s action, and it was what the world needed at the time, and I still love this movie. I still look back fondly at it. So before we go, we'll do a couple quick things here. Before we go, Mark, what are your closing thoughts overall? So
yeah, just to echo what you said, I mean, I think that you nailed it. I look at the Expendables as a tribute, as a love letter to the 80s and 90s action movies that we grew up on. And to see all of these guys in one film doing what they do best, even at an advanced age, was really something to see at the time, and even now when we look back on it. So, and they opened the door to a fantastic franchise that we all love, and so can't wait to see more of it. Absolutely.
So there's only 3 movies to rank, so I'm gonna rank mine real quick. I rank them in order. I'm gonna go 1, 2, then 3. Okay. I will say 2 is the most action-packed one, but I just feel like seeing it was kind of like going from Avengers 1 to Avengers 2. And now listen, I didn't like Age of Ultron, but seeing them together for the first time was epic. Seeing them together the second time, it wasn't as epic, but at least we got the true action. We did get an action scene with Arnold, Bruce, and Sly in action this time, and we got a better villain. But to me, the first one was still better. The third one was good, but unfortunately they toned down the violence and brought it to PG-13 rating. But it was great. So, Mark, how would you rank the movies?
I'm going to say 2, 1, and then 3. I like 2 a lot more because I'm a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. Yes. And to see him as a villain, which I don't think, to recent memory, I don't remember seeing him play the bad guy in anything. And that was really interesting. I think he did it really well. I have to put 3 last because it has one of my least favorite people on earth, Mel Gibson.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I just really didn't like that.
The story was there, but yeah, it just sucks that they went with Mel Gibson, and
Yeah,
I think
Stallone.
I think also Stallone and Mel Gibson clashed on set too.
Right.
Now we've been hearing rumblings about an Expendables 4. Who is on your wish list for Expendables 4? So go ahead, give your list first, and I'll do mine.
Oh man, you just put me on the spot. I haven't even had time to think about this, dude. Like who, like I would love to see like some of the 80s action stars that we haven't seen in this.
Okay.
Like we haven't seen Steven Seagal in this, right? Like so
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen him in any of the first three. And then some of the like, I'm a big proponent of like the 80s, like particularly the 80s martial arts stars.
Yes.
So I'd love to see like somebody like a Jeff Speakman or,
Okay.
like a Sho Kosugi or somebody like that in there. Now that we know that like Jet Li takes off in like the third one, right? Like he's just like, all right, I'm out. I'm just going to go back to my family or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we need another like martial arts expert in there. Like, and I would love to see somebody like Sho Kosugi come in, or even like Jackie Chan.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, because you see me smiling.
You knew I was going to say that too.
Nope. So I got my list.
All right.
Okay, here's my list. Okay. So I didn't have this on my list initially, but you just mentioned it. I'm going to say I would love to have Kurt Russell.
Yes.
Jackie Chan for obvious reasons.
Right.
Now, I also, because of the Rocky background, because we got Dolph Lundgren, I want to see Carl Weathers and Mr. T.
Yeah.
So those are my picks for if they do an Expendables 4. I would love to see that. Those are the guys I'd like to see. Oh, and one more, and a bonus, bring back Mickey Rourke for part 4.
Yes, and have him do some action. That would just send it over the top. Now, like as far as like Carl Weathers and Sly Stallone, like are they getting along? Because I know that they had some beef over Carl Weathers. Yeah, like
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, like when the first Creed movie was being developed, he wanted to be a part of the film, and Sly was like, "Well, how are we going to do that? Like your character was killed off," and he just basically told him like, "You can't be cast in it," and that they had a huge falling out over it.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've patched that up since then.
Well, I hope they have, because like I said, I would love to see the two of them. Whether if it's Rocky and Apollo, but I would love to see. That's the thing, that's my wish. I want to see them together on screen again. I think Expendables would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
And then finally, there's been rumblings about. We're going a little bit over than we planned on to, but I have to throw this topic in there before we go. There has been rumblings for years now about a female Expendables movie, like a spin-off called The Expendables.
Right.
So I would love to see that happen. And for starters, I mean, just to throw some names out there, Sigourney Weaver, Mila Jovovich of the Resident Evil films, and Gina Carano, or did I say that? Yeah, it's like that. I'm just throwing some names out there. Like I would love to see an all-female, and Linda Hamilton, and like an all-female, leaning toward older, that have had like action background. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if you have a wish list.
It wouldn't be a movie without Michelle Yeoh. You got to put her in there.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and Angela Bassett's got to be in there. Like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Strange Days. But like she was made to do action. Like she has the physicality. She knows how to do fight scenes. She's great with like stunts and action and things like that. I wish that we would have seen her do a lot more of that in the subsequent movies that came out after Strange Days. And I think that if they did a female Expendables, she would be fantastic in it. She would be unbelievable. So those would be my picks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that would be. Yeah, I think I would love to see it happen. If it happens, who knows? But yeah, I would love to see a part 4. If they don't, I'm not gonna lose sleep at night if they don't do an Expendables 4 or the female Expendables. I'm not gonna lose sleep at night, but I would like to see more. That's all I gotta say. And those who haven't seen Expendables, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but you can get it on Blu-ray easy. I think you can get the whole trilogy on Blu-ray for like $10-$20 maybe. I don't know if there's a 4K release yet or not, but if you haven't seen it, shame on you, but you need to see it. I feel like for any action lover, it's a requirement.
Yeah, it's streaming on Amazon for $2.99, which is where I watched it the other day. So.
Oh, okay. So that's not bad. So yes. So Expendables again. It still holds up to me, and it's basically it was the Avengers of action movies, and thoughts overall may not be a perfect movie, but it's a solid action flick, and just I love it. I still love it, and it was definitely a fun rewatch.
Yeah, it was. With the problems that I had that I mentioned. Overall, I still have a lot of love for this movie, a lot of love for this franchise, and I do hope that they continue it.
Yes. And, before we go, we just want to mention if you like this episode, we also did this Scott Pilgrim episode, a look back at Scott Pilgrim. So be sure to check that out. And we're going to be doing a look back at the original Mortal Kombat movie next week. So we are having a great time with these look backs, and we definitely plan on doing more. There's a lot more on my list that I want to do. And of course, we have Danny Pacina of Mortal Kombat, the original Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage, Reptile, Smoke, Moon Sabat. He's going to be on our show. By the time this comes out, it'll be next week. So we're looking at Thursday, August 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We encourage you to be there. It's going to be a great damn time to talk martial arts, movies, maybe a little bit of kaiju stuff, and of course, Mortal Kombat. We're very much looking forward. And again, thank you to everybody who keeps coming to the streams every Thursday. We will continue those. It's been a lot of freaking fun. Yes, it has. And again, to echo what you just said, Thursday, August 20th, be there or be square. If you can't make it and you have questions for Master Pacina, comment, jump in the comments on this and let us know, like what your questions are. You can hit us up on Facebook also. Yes. Or Twitter at nerd_cage, and just let us know what you want to ask Master Pacina, and we'll ask him on your behalf. Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you very much. This has been a fun look back. So before we go, we ask you to pretty please like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell and spread this shit like syphilis. So to you, I say from Louisville to Syracuse and to all of our friends and fans around the world at NerdCage Live, enjoy life, stay safe, and good night. Sayonara.